Churches declare peaceful war against sorcery. Ignorance attributed to surge of COVID-19 cases. And schools to reopen despite spike in positive cases.
This is National EMTV News with Jeremy Mogi.
Thanks for joining me for Monday's news. Various Catholic churches are declaring what they say is a peaceful war on sorcery-related violence in PNG. The Archdiocese of Mendi in the Southern Highlands has marked today as a day against sorcery accusation following continuous violence stemming from the suspicion of sorcery. Secretary General of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of PNG and the Solomon Islands, Father Giorgio Liscini, says baseless claims that ending violence is unacceptable.
Speaking on behalf of the church, Father Giorgio spoke of the harsh nature of violence on people suspected of practicing sorcery.
What has been the focus at the moment is not really the big issue of the sorcery or sangoma or witchcraft or whatever, but the related accusation violence.
In the Highlands, sorcery accusations end up violently, even that for mostly women and girls suspected of the ancient practice.
If the accusation is there against anybody, sort it out to due process.
In a documentary released recently online, victims accused of practicing witchcraft are left with bruises and scars that last a lifetime. The UN estimates that over 200 people die each year as a result, based on suspicion. In PNG, many parts of the country strongly believe that sorcery is being practiced and that many illnesses and deaths are driven by evil spells performed by witch doctors on people. The Catholic Church is against this and wants people to seek clarity or interpretation from science on sickness and health.
Even the manifestation of the demonic, the Church acknowledges that it exists and there are cases, but even professional exorcists will tell you that there are very, very limited occasions of that. Mostly is in fact related to illness.
The current law on sorcery was repealed 7 years ago and since hasn't been fully redeveloped because of the complexity of the issue. Many non-government organizations are volunteering their time and effort to help victims blamed for sorcery practice. And while the topic is rarely mentioned by lawmakers, it's something that many people take interest in during their daily get-togethers. Bradley Valenaki, National EMTV News.
Authorities in the nation's capital district say the closure of Boroko Market is not because of the threat of COVID-19 transmission from the nearby isolation center. And City Governor Powis Parkop told EMTV News once induction for vendors on strict protocols is completed, the market is expected to reopen in the next 3 days. Market vendors at Boroko were not able to make the desired profit today because they had no other place to sell their produce. Most of these vendors, including carriers, rely on the income from the market.
The normal daily income for vendors at Boroko Market is now cut following the enforcement of the market's closure due to what authorities say is a time for cleanup. This was the scene outside the Boroko Market this morning when vendors were advised of the unfortunate news that the market will remain closed. Fighting back tears, mothers who earn their living through Boroko Market say this means they will have no income until they find another place to sell. Last Thursday, authorities advised vendors the market will be closed as a preventative measure against the possible spread of COVID-19. This is one of the effects of the coronavirus pandemic, which is affecting ordinary Papua New Guineans in the informal sector. The market closure means vendors are not able to make an income today unless they find another venue.
Now I'm passing this market. I'm saying one something me past them. Now stopping this market.
The closure will also affect those working as carriers and Port Moresby residents who consider Boroko as a safe place to buy garden produce.
One back and 2 kilo 1 kilo section. All car 1 20 black all working 40 kilo pinisho. I've been at least I'm go back house. Mary block number put on rice beginning one them Basido Nakage.
While time is against the vendors to find another market, the produce are rotting in bags, denying them the chance to make the desired profit.
Mr. Salim, mau bananas. Now today, mau banana blow me. I'm bagarab na sana pista. I'm bagarab, I'm still.
Meanwhile, Governor Parkov says while the market is located near the Rita Flynn Isolation Center, it is so far away from any transmission to take place. Other markets in Port Moresby, including the Koki Fish Market, located near Vanigela, a high-risk area, is operating as normal, but under strict COVID-19 measures. Thekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
Measures are now in place to ensure NAS Fund members have convenient access to the fund's services without being unfairly disadvantaged during current travel restrictions, especially in NCD, where COVID-19 cases have increased drastically in recent weeks. During this time, NAS Fund will continue to implement strict and safety measures at all its offices, branches and service centers, which includes a no mask, no entry policy, with changes being introduced. NAS Fund Super Saturday services at Boroko, Leh, Mount Hagen and Kokopo are suspended indefinitely and will be served through their call center. Members wishing to access services can call 1588 or email help@nasfund.com.pg between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. for queries and assistance. Normal services will continue weekly, while major branches of Boroko, Port Moresby, Leh, Mount Hagen and Kokopo have introduced segmented service days. Commenting on its operations, NAS Fund CEO Ian Tarutia says due to the rise in cases of COVID-19, the fund has stepped up efforts to protect its members as well as staff. Law enforcement officers are doing their best to curb the spread of COVID-19 in the nation's capital by enforcing strict measures such as dispersing crowds in public areas and ensuring masks are worn, among others. NCD Metropolitan Superintendent Pero Endrano attributed the surge of positive cases to the ignorance of city residents.
Cases of COVID-19 have reached the 200 mark in PNG. A large number of these confirmed cases are from the nation's capital. While measures have been put in place by the controller supposedly for the public to adhere to, it is clear general compliance is proving difficult for law enforcers like the police to get the general public to abide by these measures. EMTV spoke to the NCD Metropolitan Superintendent, who said ignorance and lack of compliance by the general public of the set measures is a plausible reason why NCD is seeing the surges of new cases.
If they complied in the first lockdown and now the second, if they did, then we wouldn't be at the stage in the first place. We're just now losing the battle because of ignorance of our people. You won't die in 2 weeks. You won't die in 2 weeks. But you will eventually die if we are not careful in this fight against this spike in the virus confirmed cases. So in NCD, as much as we try to enforce curfew, we're also mindful of that people should take this ownership, take the ownership that they must make it safe for all of us.
Expressing disappointment, Metsup Ndrano said this continuous reluctance and ignorance will lead to new cases and deaths with a further extension of the lockdown. I
understand where a lot of our parents are talking about education. We are at this stage that we need to close education institutions because we fail. We fail ourselves in the last few months. If we have observed and obeyed these restrictions and protocols, we should be enjoying our life including our kids going to school and working as well. We are now at a current stage because we fail ourselves by not adhering to the protocol from the start.
Also stating that the measures put in place are to safeguard the lives of people.
The protocols and the laws in place for health pandemic is purposely to safeguard our own life, security, and economy in the end. I would rather be hungry now and lose the privilege of social enjoyment now than be dead tomorrow. And I think that is the message to all of us.
Additionally, the Metsub state it has been quite difficult for the police to get the public to adhere, and that the last thing that enforcers want is to use force.
It's very difficult, I would say, as I said, it is very, very difficult for us to do that. And the last thing we want to do is use force. And we are restraining our police officers to ensure that they do not use force, but talk to the residents and in the form of awareness and asking our people to be compliant. We have gone down too far to just to answer one situation like this for us to behave well. It needs constant reminding, it needs constant policing from the authorities in whichever laws it is. So for NCD it's very difficult for police to enforce whatever is going because our people are still ignorant.
Aret Kora, National EMTV News.
More updates on COVID-19, and Prime Minister James Mabe says drug syndicates will face the full force of the law. Details when we come back. Welcome back. The state of emergency declared in the National Capital District will end on the 12th of August. In a live address this afternoon from the National Command Center, Prime Minister James Mabe outlined the latest on the state of emergency.
Where we are, our capacity to handle such outbreaks, and for us to be in this place today when we step down, we're coming down from a engagement we've had with not necessarily those of us who've been predominantly operating in and out of the National Control Center, but we were blessed with a visit from senior members of the medical fraternity.
With a rise in the number of positive cases of COVID-19 across Papua New Guinea, Mabe's announcement was a much-needed presentation after mounting frustration in especially the National Capital District after a second lockdown had been announced.
Days away from the close-up of the second lockdown we've had in the city and in the country, let me qualify the lockdown. Lockdown was not basically to stop COVID-19 per se from spreading around. Lockdown was basically for us to take stock of where we are and to the best of our ability stop it from not leaving Port Moresby, as Port Moresby was becoming evidently a hot spot.
Schools are scheduled to reopen this week, with the struggles in maintaining social distancing as well as online capacities being an issue. The Prime Minister saying it is important to complete the school year from elementary to tertiary institutions. Mabe making some bold statements as well.
And as we come out of our present lockdown, we will adjust to opening schools again, and have put signal that our lockdown will conclude on the 12th of August. We'll take Thursday and Friday to prepare, and next week we'll get schools to come back as both in NCD as well as schools nationwide.
When addressing concerns regarding the use of the PNG Defence Force assisting the police, the Prime Minister allayed fears raised by the public and which had been referred to by opposition leader Mbelde Nama. With Parliament set to resume later this month, the Prime Minister has assured that an audit into expenses will be presented for public consumption. As of last night, over 200 positive cases have been recorded since March. Papua New Guinea at present has 140 active cases, and from the total of 214, 63 have recovered so far, with sadly 3 deaths. Mabe's COVID-19 hospital is ready to be used if there is an outbreak in the province, according to the Provincial Health Authority CEO, Dr. Kipas Binga. To show the progress made on the hospital, the lay media were shown the facility. So far, Mabe has only had 3 cases, 2 of which were imported into the province.
The Sir Ignatius Kilage Stadium's outdoor court is being used as the first point of entry at Mabe's COVID-19 hospital. Patients with symptoms are brought here, where they are interviewed by health staff. After the interview, they proceed to have their samples taken here. Depending on the patient's condition at the time samples are taken, they will either be sent home to self-isolate or proceed to the ICU.
For the Mabe PHA, we have to use this facility. With a fully completed sample staff, at least we're going to use it and we improve as we go along, rather than sitting down and pointing fingers and saying, then do it, let's not talk about those. We just go and use the facility. If there are gaps there, we raise it up, address it as we go along.
The hospital's ICU was initially set up on the top floor. However, they've moved this down to make it more convenient for both patients and the staff. From the outdoor court, patients with severe symptoms will proceed here to the ICU, where 5 beds will be set up.
So we will cut the beds down to 5. The reason is that that will be realistic for us, given the manpower that we have and the ICU skilled personnel that we have.
If samples taken from the patients are positive, they will be admitted here at the hospital's general ward.
All the business of COVID-19 happens down. There is no up and down. So ICU on one side, the general floor on the other side. ICU one way in, one way out, general floor one way in, one way out.
Mabe Provincial Health Authority CEO Dr. Kipas Binga said they currently have 5 ventilators, 2 of which are ready to be used. So far, Mabe has had 3 cases. Lucy Kopana, National EMTV News, Lay.
And Dr. Kipas Binga has also called on the 9 districts of Mabe to assist with funds for the COVID-19 treatment facility at Lay's Sir Ignatius Kilage Stadium. Binga said the severe COVID-19 patients would be treated at the stadium and not in the districts.
All treatment for COVID positive patients in Mabe, you Wabuloloman, you Makam district, you Huan Gulf, or you Nawa, it's going to happen at the stadium Lotamlo. I'm not come up low area of one of those very sick ones. I'm not talking about a mile and moderate. After test COVID-19 positive, low area of here. And therefore, it is only fair for us to ask that you plus about the plus, so we get the place running and continue to sustain for at least the next 6 to 12 months. So we don't know how this thing is going to play out, but at least until December 31st, January, and we'll see how the world story is, how Papua New Guineans respond. We don't know the Papua New Guinea story. We have seen Mosby now. And we haven't seen the full story of Mosby yet. We are going to see it in the next 2-3 months. No, but looking story will come out clear. How Papua New Guinea will respond and how COVID-19 is going to affect our population. We don't know yet, so it would be nice to have all those resources so we plan and keep it for another 6 months to 12 months at least during the time. Hopefully.
To other news now, and Prime Minister James Marape has issued orders for the pilot who tried to fly 200 million kina worth of cocaine out of the country to be held until he gives all the required evidence. In an address this afternoon, the Prime Minister said Papua New Guinea will not be used as a transit hub for drug smugglers. He has also ordered the National Intelligence Organization to provide another level of investigations to assist police apprehend other suspects. Police have raided several locations, including Sunset Lodge in Papalea, close to where the plane landed.
Also complementing the arrest of the pilot, and we are stitching in all the details that we need to stitch in to ensure that we go to the root of those who have been using PNG as a launching pad for transnational crimes and most of drug in this instance. There are many rumors and speculations that guns have been peddled or gold has also been peddled, and now we leave every of these public conversations to the hand of police to have a detailed investigation into this one.
A 49-kilometer stretch of road from Imbongu in the Southern Highlands to Tambul in the Western Highlands will open up services for the rural population. Imbongu MP Pila Niningi jointly launched the 7 million Kina Road project with Tambul Nebilia MP Windaki over the weekend. Close to 30,000 people will benefit from this government project.
It is a 49-kilometer stretch of road from Kaka in the Yalebu Basin to Kotol Junction, across to Piambil and Tambul Nebilia. Close to 30,000 population will benefit from this road project, jointly funded by the national government, Imbongu and Tambul Nebilia district development authorities.
Always something by you not run straight. So, long this land, time become about administrator. No can think also Yalebu no kisim road this la time. Welcome to Yalebu, me been walking.
Most of the locals are potato and broccoli farmers. They have been transporting their produces by walking distances over the last 30 years when the road was abandoned. Local health centers and schools in the two districts were also closed after public servants have left due to the poor road condition. The completion of this Million Kina Road project will bring back services and relieve the local farmers' worries.
Government belong Southern Islands, governor but partner, walking this road.
Tambul Nebilia MP Win Bakri Daki encouraged the locals to open up their land for services to reach them.
Less law defense must come sanablia. Less law police must come sanablia. Road must free. Machine must free.
The contract has been awarded to local contractor IE Transport and Construction Limited. Roadworks has already started. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
The Asian Development Bank, or ADB, has approved a $31 million loan to expand and improve the road network in Papua New Guinea. That's about 109 million Kina through a concessional loan through the ADB's Ordinary Capital Resources. This will finance a feasibility study and detailed engineering designs, including bidding documents and procurement support for 3 transport projects along the Northern Region Road Corridor and continue improvements to the Highlands region. ADB Country Director for PNG, David Hill, says this project is the ADB's new and innovative way to fast-track projects while improving engineering designs and procurement. And now looking at the NASFAN market report, the Kina closed unchanged at $0.2880 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your Kina is buying $0.2805 $0.3882 Australian, $0.2300 euro, and 29.06 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold is trading higher. Cocoa and copra closed higher and coffee closed lower. Crude oil is trading higher, palm oil and copra closed lower. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 46.50 points higher. The ASX 200 is trading at 1.87 points higher, and the All Ordinaries is trading at 1.78 points higher. You're watching National EMTV News. More stories here and abroad after the break. You're watching tonight's news on EMTV. In an ongoing effort to improve tax compliance, the Internal Revenue Commission today signed a Memorandum of Understanding with the Certified Practicing Accountants of PNG to share data for compliance purposes. This is the first of many other partnerships to come with other organizations as the IRC moves to ensure tax measures are complied with in the country.
The signing of the MOU now paves way for the certified practicing accountants of PNG to ensure its members are tax compliant and operate ethically in the country. IRC Commissioner General Sam Koim said while IRC is faced with many challenges, he sees organizations like CPA as important partners and want to take on board more organizations to ensure businesses and individuals do not evade tax measures.
Third-party data that we can rely on to verify compliance. We are moving into a stage where we will have, once when we harness all the data, then we'll be able to profile taxpayers. So if taxpayers come to us and tell us that they've been on serious diet for the last 3 years, then we'll tell them, no, you're putting on a lot of weight out there.
Koim also raised concerns of the operations of trust accounts and says this is something the Commission will also look into.
We would like to see transparency in the operation of trust accounts as well. A lot of law firms out there and accountants, their trust accounts, we would like to see a lot of transparency being introduced and a lot of visibility. We don't want them to be instruments of crime, facilitate clients' crimes and all of this. So that's where professional ethics and all of this come into play, and that's where CPA comes into play.
Many businesses are registered with IPA but do not pay taxes, and IRC also plans to clamp down on these businesses with the help of IPA. And one business covered under this MOU is the operation of tax agents. Tax agents are usually accountants, and the MOU will now ensure they also become members of CPA, and CPA in turn ensures they pay their taxes to IRC.
We have been trying our best to make sure that the tax agents that the IRC appoints have a certain level of qualification, and we haven't been able to achieve that. But through your help and this MOU, I think that can be done. And only those who are clear to practice can practice. And I think we can drive the ethics together.
Meantime, Koim said the Commission has been taking steps to recoup money owed to them, and a good number of taxpayers have used the amnesty period to come forward to pay their taxes. Ruth Rungola, National EMTV News.
There are missing links in the agriculture sector. Agriculture Minister John Simon says despite agriculture being practiced in almost all communities, links between agencies and farmers remains a challenge. He says the DAL is now embarking on a plan to connect farmers to state agencies, industry players, and better market opportunities.
With the Mabe government placing emphasis in agriculture, Minister responsible John Simon says the sector needs overhaul. From policy planning to project implementation, Minister Simon says more work is needed to connect the agriculture sector. He says the government must be focused.
A lot of times we came to realize DAL is disconnected as well. And I'd like when you sit together to look at areas where we can connect DAL back to the provinces. And one of the areas I see is the National Agriculture Council.
A recent consultation meeting for the department hopes to gather innovative ways to technically improve coordination between farmers, major players and opportunities in the world market, something DAL hopes to finalize by this year. Minister Simon says a new approach will be closing the gap between the department and provincial governments.
This plan is being tailored in line with the use of innovative strategies and adaptation of advanced technologies, including GIS, e-agriculture, which we're taking into cabinet as well, to loans, e-commerce and blockchain, as a game changer that is compatible, responsive, effective and measurable with the global economy.
While there is a mixture of approaches currently pushed by players in the agriculture industry, Minister Simon says all policy planning must point to a goal, and that is to provide a better door price to farmers. This has been a struggle across the different commodities like cocoa, copra, oil palm and coffee, among others.
The prices must be, when we're talking about getting e-agriculture and e-commerce, we'd like to bring that back to our farmers at the farm gate. So the value chain, the supply chain, the value chain and the supply chain, the farmers need to get the door price at the farm gate.
Jacob Power Jr., National EMTV News.
And overseas, there are global calls for calm in Lebanon's capital 5 days after a deadly blast destroyed much of Beirut. As violent protests continues, world leaders have pledged almost $150 million in aid for Lebanon.
A city blown apart just days ago is now exploding in rage at its leaders.
We will never leave the streets until every one of them is brought to justice.
Residents desperate for answers, again attacking government buildings. Their anger and confusion met with rubber bullets and tear gas. Those injured in the clashes adding to already overcrowded hospitals. Hope of finding anyone else alive is vanishing. Rescue teams now only using dogs trained to find bodies. 27-year-old firefighter Saha Fares was one of the first to respond to the blaze at the port and one of the first to be killed by the blast.
I video called her instantly. She was terrified and disoriented, so I told her to run, and I was shouting, "Run, run, run," and then the video cut.
Her family blame their government.
They killed her. They killed her dreams. They killed her future.
World leaders pledging hundreds of millions of dollars in aid, but only when the protesters' demands for reform are addressed.
2,500 tons of ammonium nitrate were stocked in the port for 6 years, and no one in the government did anything.
2 ministers have resigned so far. Even before the blast, Beirut was crumbling. Poverty soaring, large areas struggling without electricity or clean water. And 300,000 more are now homeless. Buildings up to 10 kilometres away shattered by shockwaves. One of the youngest casualties, 2-year-old Australian Isaac Olas, his parents surviving the explosion. Survivors facing Beirut's new reality of chaos and catastrophe.
Truco Sports is next, and Fidelis Sukina is at the sports desk.
Thank you, Jeremy. We have news from the Intercity Cup competition round 5 coming up after the break when we come back for Truco Sports.
Truco Sports.
Good night and welcome to Truco Sports. The Hella Wigmen's winning streak has come to an end after a superb performance by the Port Moresby Vipers yesterday. The Vipers managed a 26-12 victory in yesterday's round 5 match held in Port Moresby. The Hella Wigmen had an early lead with a penalty goal conversion as they led 2-0. But the Vipers looked poised for the win and their determination paid off in the 10th minute with a great inside pass by Aseboas allowing Stargwat Amin to find space for the opener.
And there goes the first try of the match, going in the way of the Vipers.
The Vipers stretched their lead further with another try by Shalom Bire in the 15th minute.
He's over the line. What's the reference call? Try.
The Wigmen came back in the 26th minute with a try to Gilmore Paul that left the scores at 12-6.
Gilmore Paul has crashed over for the Wigmen.
But 10 minutes before half-time, Brendan Gotuno managed to hold on to the ball for the Vipers' third try.
Playing on says the referee, and this is Gotuno. He's over for the Vipers.
But it was the Wigmen who scored before half-time, closing the deficit to 18 points to 12 at half-time.
He should go over, and there it is.
The second half had missed opportunities by both teams, but the Vipers managed to convert 2 penalty goals by Aseboas, taking their lead to 20 points to 12. And it was Aseboas who found good footing for himself to score the only try in the second half, closing off the match 26 points to 12 in favor of the Vipers. And Truco Sports continues after the break. Stay with us.
Truco Sports.
And welcome back to Truco Sports. The Kimbe Cutters cut through a lackluster Gulf ISO team in a dominant 26-8 victory. The Cutters managed to pile on the points in the first half as they cut through some ordinary defense from the Gulf franchise.
Of the Cutters, they come back towards the middle.
The Kimbe Cutters showed right from the start they meant business.
Chadrick, oh, what a tackle, one-on-one.
The momentum kept moving forward, and in the 14th minute, Justin Yoka produced a masterclass.
Justin Yoka, dummy, and goes right through, open spaces in front of him. He's only got a fullback to beat. Support on the inside, it should go all the way. And there it is, the first try of the match.
The Isos looked ordinary in defense, allowing the Cutters halfback, Jesse Alunga, to go over for the team's second.
Work it back towards the left-hand side, and there it is. The referee points to the spot, try time again.
The Cutters' 8-point lead was stretched with a great bat-back from a Justin Yoka cross kick, giving way to a Donald Waluka try.
Crossfield kick, and then step back on the inside. It should be a try, and there it is. The Cutters are in again. Confirmation from the referee.
The Isos' slack defense opened up another scoring opportunity, this time Cutters' Stephen Ye strolling in for the try, leaving the scores at 18-0 at half-time.
Very easy try there.
The second half saw the Cutters dominate once more, with Donald Waluka opening the scoring in the second half. The Isos looked to score next, but the Cutters held on the defense line. Benji Cott adding more points to the Cutters, taking the scores to 26-0. The Isos' first points came in the 67th minute through Roa Maino Gairo. And just seconds before full time, Gairo went over for his double, ending the match 26-8 in favor of the Cutters. In other results, the Rabaul Gurias managed to defeat Miox 22-12, and the Lahanis registered their first win of the season, defeating the Central Dabaris 34-32. After round 5 of the competition, the Snakes Tigers remain undefeated on first spot, with the Gurias in second and the Muruks in third, followed by the Wigmen, closing off the top 4. The Hagen Eagles remain winless at the bottom of the ladder.
This is another try for the Cutters. There it is.
And to Super Rugby, it's not really the way Super Rugby fans are used to ending the season unless you're a Crusader fan. The Crusaders have been crowned champions without playing a final. However, with one more round left at a sold-out Eden Park this Sunday, their northern rivals say this isn't over yet.
Either way, the Blues have done fans proud this season while giving back plenty. Today, preparing donated boots for kids around the region.
Each year we get more and more boots and more people get involved. When we're away from footy, how can we help? And just make people smile and whatnot.
Officially, their championship hopes are over, but try telling them that.
For us, we still see that last game as a final. It's an itch that we want to scratch. We haven't beaten the Crusaders in a very long time.
It should mean a sold-out Eden Park will host another thrilling chapter of this rivalry, even though the Super Rugby Aotearoa crown is locked up. Although some fans want to change that.
Bring the trophy up and there should be a final this weekend.
Proper final, and that's how it should be played. So come on, Crusaders, think about it. You know, Blues are waiting.
It's effectively a final anyway, they should put it on the line.
That idea receiving mixed reaction in Christchurch.
Definitely not. Why would you do that? We've won it.
No, we've already got the 4-peat. No way.
If they feel they're going to win it for real, they'll perform.
We've already won it, so yeah, I reckon Hurricanes might be a better match.
And what do the players think?
You know how it goes, right? Last try win situation. So
the bragging rights, eh?
Yeah, bro, pretty much.
Regardless, I still think it's going to be a bloody crack hot day. I like your idea. I don't know if Colin Mainsbridge will as much. That's what I do.
The Blues boss acknowledging his Crusaders counterpart won't be in any rush to relinquish what's being called a 4-peat.
And that story ends Truco Sports. Jeremy will be back with the weather forecast for the next 24 hours. Bye for now.
Truco Sports. Truco Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by MoniPlus, with you always.
And the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow, starting off with the southern region. Port Moresby mostly fine, then possible afternoon showers developing. Daru mostly fine. Kerema mostly fine, then a chance of afternoon showers. Halotau and Popondetta mostly fine and sunny weather expected. Up to the Momase region, Leh and Madang mostly fine and sunny. Wuak mostly fine with a high of 30 degrees, while Vanimo mostly fine though occasionally cloudy and a high of 30. Across to the New Guinea Islands, Lorengau mostly fine though occasionally cloudy, a high of 29 degrees. Kavieng mostly fine. Kokopo and Rabaul mostly fine, then chances of afternoon showers developing. Kimber and Buka mostly fine and sunny, then a chance of afternoon rain showers. And finally, in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen mostly fine and sunny, then possible afternoon showers developing, a high of 24 degrees. Goroka and Kundiawa mostly fine, then possible afternoon showers. Mendi and Wabeg mostly fine, then afternoon rain showers expected. Forecast for small crafts within the coastal waters of Papua New Guinea for the next 24 hours. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait to Daru, through the Gulf of Papua to Yule Island to Hood Point, to Samara Island with waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, with waters of Samara Island to East Cape to Cape Vogel through the Huon Gulf to Finschhafen, with waters of Finschhafen through the VTS Dampier Straits to Siasi Long Island, to Karkar Island with waters of Karkar to Wuak to Aitape, to the northern PNG Indonesian border with waters of Manus and its western group of islands, with waters of New Island and Bougainville, and with waters of East and West New Britain, seas 0.5 to 1.3 meters. And the ocean forecast for PNG areas: coral seas, seas slight with southeast winds at 10 to 15 knots. Solomon seas, seas slight with east to southeast winds at 10 to 15 knots. Bismarck seas, seas slight with east to southeast winds also at 10 to 15 knots. Pacific Ocean, seas slight with northeast to easterly winds at 10 to 15 knots.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by MoneyPlus, with you always.
And that's how we begin another working week, today being Monday the 10th of August 2020. From the news team, I'm Jeremy Moggy. Good night.